This is a message for women. Just want to speak quickly about the feasts. I was on a live this morning and I was hearing my brothers trying to bring awareness to other men of how you're not supposed to keep the feast in a profane land. Please check out Daniel 10. He was in Babylon and he fasted through the Passover because he knew that you're supposed to keep it where God places his name forever, which is in Jerusalem. So what I wanted to share was that they're trying to use the book of Joshua of, look, you can keep the feasts anywhere you're at. But they're not taking into account that they crossed the Jordan and they were starting to enter into their inheritance. And that's where you're supposed to keep it. We're in captivity right now. And this man was saying something about Joshua 20, chapter 24. He was saying, look, they're renewing the covenant. And what's the covenant that was being renewed, though? It was the one that was given at Horeb. You got to read Deuteronomy 18, 15 through 19. That is what Yeshua Messiah came to teach us. Everything that was desired at Horeb. It will be required of you if you don't hearken unto him. Okay? You don't want to say, oh, he's our king and Lord, and this and that, but you're not doing what he says. Okay? He commissioned us to go preach the good news, the glad tidings, the refreshing of the covenant, which is the 10 commandments written in Deuteronomy 5 and Exodus chapter 20. Okay. So with that said, when you read Joshua 24 and you understand that, you're seeing when he's saying, incline your heart to God, like Deuteronomy 6, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Well, if you read Deuteronomy 5 and you see that he's given the 10 commandments, and then he's telling you that in Deuteronomy 6, common sense, it's about the 10 commandments. Yeshua came and taught you to keep that. And he also said, love your neighbor as yourself. And those are the two that hang on all the law and the prophets. So if you're doing that, you're keeping the rest. And you will receive the spirit of truth promised to you if you obey. If you read Acts 5:32 and John 14:15 to 26. So they were trying to say that that's why you can keep the feast. But when you're reading Joshua 24 and Joshua's establishing the covenant with the people, they were gaining their inheritance. That's where God said that we can do these feasts, but you still had to go to Jerusalem for 3 of them, where he placed his name forever. And it was actually the men that had to go do it. So please don't use that chapter to twist. But I'm going to have Mia read some scriptures that she has up right now about the feast.
Yeah, so the first place, because even this you guys like to twist, where it's literally right in Exodus 12 as he's giving, all the instructions on how to keep it. One of the instructions says, and it shall come to pass when ye be come to the land which the Lord your God will give you, according as he hath promised, that ye shall keep the service. So even right there, it shows you have to go into the land to be able to do the feast. And then the other place is also right in Deuteronomy 12, where it's in verses 8 through 11. And honestly, read the verses in the beginning of the chapters, because you have to cleanse the land first before you even feast. Like it even says you have to get rid of the idols, the other things, like all these where it says, well, actually I'll read it. You shall utterly destroy the places wherein the nations which you shall possess serve their gods upon the high mountains, upon the hills, and under every green tree. And you shall overthrow their altars and break their pillars and burn their groves with fire. And ye shall hew down the graven images of their gods and destroy the names out of that place. So right there, you still have to cleanse it before you just willy-nilly do it. But anyway, so verses 8, and I think I'll read to 11. So it says, ye shall not do after all the things that we do here this day. Every man whatsoever is right in his own eyes. It's right in the chapter about the feast. Why do you think he's saying that? Because you can't just celebrate them and do it however you want. There's instructions he has and precepts to his feast that you're supposed to keep. If you want to actually do it, you got to do it how the scriptures say to do it. Again, not according to what's right in your own eyes. For ye are not as yet come to the rest and into the inheritance which the Lord your God giveth you. But when you go over Jordan and dwell in the land which the Lord your God giveth you to inherit, and when he giveth you rest, and this is also part of it too, when he giveth you rest from all your enemies, enemies round about, so you dwell in safety. We don't dwell in safety. We're in captivity, where people are dying, getting raped, murdered, all this stuff constantly. So you can't say we're dwelling in safety. We're in captivity. Maybe you're not experiencing what other people are experiencing, but that doesn't change the fact there's so much wickedness in this world. So you can't do the feast. Then there shall be a place which the Lord your God shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. Yeah, his name dwells in us once we circumcise our hearts to obey him, but there's still a physical place where his name dwells too. You can't ignore that scripture, because scripture shows his name is in the land forever. He never removed it from there. Thither shall you bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings and your sacrifices, your tithes, and the heave offering of your hand, and all your choice vows which ye vow unto the Lord. And so something to remember in scripture, it shows that the law is spiritual now. So when he's saying you have not come to the rest and to the inheritance, he's talking about the literal land, but now this represents the kingdom, where we're going to be in rest. In the millennial reign, we'll be doing the feast where there's complete total rest, but we're not there yet. We're still, as we see, in captivity, but people like to ignore that and do what's right in their own eyes. But I guess the last place I'll read is Deuteronomy 16, because this talks about, I think it talks about the land, but it also talks about in the month, because you have to do it on his day, the appointed time. So you can't, again, do what's right in your own eyes. You need the day, the calendar, the land, and it's supposed to be a holy convocation, and we can't have a holy convocation if we're all spread out in the diaspora. And also we need our Messiah now, our bridegroom, and even he says in Luke 22:15-18 that he won't even be feasting in heaven. If he's not going to be feasting, then we shouldn't be either. But anyways, observe the month of Abib and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God. For in the month of Abib, the Lord thy God brought thee forth out of Egypt by night. Thou shalt therefore sacrifice the Passover unto the Lord thy God of the flock and the herd in the place which the Lord shall choose to place his name there. Again, in the land, and on here it even shows on the day you have to do it. Thou shalt not eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days shalt thou eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction, for thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt in haste, that thou mayest remember the day when thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt all the days of thy life. And there shall be no leavened bread seen with thee in all thy coast 7 days, neither shall there anything of the flesh which thou sacrificest the first day at even remain all night until the morning. Thou mayest not sacrifice the Passover within any of thy gates which the Lord thy God giveth thee, but at the place which the Lord thy God shall choose to place his name in, there thou shalt sacrifice the Passover. So again, the land, but then it says at even, at the going down of the sun, at the season that thou camest forth out of Egypt. And that's the thing, people have all these different calendars now, so how do you know what's the day? And this was even basically prophesied to happen in Jubilee 6:33-38, because you did as we all did, instead of doing his feast, we did the feast of the Gentiles, Christmas, Easter, Halloween, etc., all those things. And because we did those things, then the calendar got basically ruined, and now we don't have the right day. So you can't do it again without the right day. And that's something that you guys need to read, because I know you guys read the extra books. So read Jubilee 6, where it shows that's going to happen. And then Hosea 8:11-14, it goes with that as well. And thou shalt roast and eat it in the place which the Lord thy God shall choose, and thou shalt turn in the morning and go unto thy tents. 6 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day shall be a solemn assembly. And it's supposed to be solemn too, especially the Passover. It's not supposed to be like, oh, happy Passover, like people. It's like, it says solemn assembly for a reason. To the Lord thy God thou shalt do no work therein. But yeah, basically it just keeps reiterating what Deuteronomy 12 says about doing it in the land and other stuff too.